So in this segment, we're going to be discussing Rory Stewart absolutely cooking Israel and Netanyahu, and yeah, he's more progressive than Starmer on this issue, which is very rare. Credit where it's due, I guess.
But we have to be clear now. The attitude of the Israeli government towards the Palestinians of Gaza is unforgivable. The complete lack of interest in reconstruction, in the interests of their lives, the endless justification for the prolonged conflict.
I mean, these are things we knew already. This conflict has been dragging on now for a lot longer than October 7th in the West Bank, where they've been taking people's land and houses illegally. So, the idea that it's kind of just popped off after that Hamas attack is completely crazy to me. The idea they wanted to rebuild areas in Gaza is nonsense, because again we've seen them tear down people's houses in the West Bank. We've seen them tear down people's properties and things like that, and argue they didn't have planning permission, and then offer no means for them to have actually gotten planning permission in land that belongs to the West Bank, not to Israel.
The fact that there has not been any clear statements about the reality here. This is Palestinian land. It has nothing to do with the historic state of Israel. Everything being proposed here is ethnic cleansing, completely illegal. And
that's the key there. It's ethnic cleansing. And that's one of the main things that puts him to the more progressive side of this versus the Labour government, or even any politician, most of the politicians in Westminster right now, that phrase ethnic cleansing, because that's what we are seeing here. We're seeing a population being eradicated before our eyes and being forcibly moved. That's what I think is going to happen next. You've got Trump talking about putting people from Gaza into Jordan or into Egypt. It's a form of ethnic cleansing, taking them away from their land, their historic land.
And it is outrageous that we are allowing these double standards to happen. And I think it is absolutely right that people should be returning to the International Criminal Court and the International Court of Justice. This is not the democratic Israel that people like Yuval Noah Harari stood up for. And it's...
When was it ever democratic? Was it democratic when it was demolishing properties in the West Bank and stealing land? Was it democratic back then? Was it following international laws back then when it consistently broke UN convention after UN convention after UN convention?
The sign of one of the reasons why I'm afraid so many people are now leaving Israel, because this is never supposed to be the vision of liberal Jews.
I don't think they're leaving because of over this kind of stuff, of the idea that because they're liberal Jews. I think they're leaving because they don't feel safe there anymore. I don't think they have confidence that the Netanyahu administration can protect them. I think that's why they're afraid, because the Middle East is becoming more and more inflamed. And I don't think they feel safe in Israel. And the fact that Hamas managed to penetrate the Israeli borders is a sign of that. The fact that you've had drones and missile strikes from Iran, which a country they wouldn't have taken that seriously, not really back until recently, is what's going to scare them. I think the fact that the Iron Dome costs a fortune to run, and if you're dealing with a war on multiple fronts, it's not going to be easy for them. Maybe they don't have a ton of faith in the Western allies really coming out to bail them out as well.
Meanwhile, Donald Trump is talking about the whole thing like he's back in New York in his property development days.
It's true, and the fact that Rory Stewart is actually talking about this is important because he's a mainstream commentator. He's talking about the guys with, I think, the number 1 or number 2 podcast, and I think this is important. And again, I don't respect either of these people, Austerity Boy and War Criminal, but credit where it's due. At least they're talking about an important issue here, and to their audience, so it's incredibly important that we get this message to kind of, especially the British politicians, that we won't stand for ethnic cleansing. We won't stand backing a country committing ethnic cleansing. The duality of position here, where you're angry at Russia for stealing land and ethnically cleansing Ukrainians, but not angry at Israel for doing the same thing, is just crazy to me. But anyways, I'm going to leave it there. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Like, comment, share, subscribe. Support the channel on Patreon if you can, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one.